In the far reaches of space, where the stars shine cold and distant, there exists a mighty force, the Galactic Empire. It stretches across hundreds of worlds, its ships and soldiers feared by all who come into contact with them. Powerful and unyielding, the Empire's reach is vast, and its grip on the galaxy is unchallenged. The Empire conquers planets without mercy, expanding its power with each new victory. No one dares to stand against them, for their ships are armed with weapons beyond imagination, and their technology is centuries ahead of any known species. Earth, a small blue planet orbiting an insignificant star, had lived in peaceful ignorance of this vast empire. To the Empire, Earth was just another primitive planet, far from the great powers that controlled the galaxy. It was not even on the radar of their military strategies, a tiny dot in the universe that had yet to be explored or understood. But things were about to change. Unknown to the people of Earth, their planet had been quietly observed by a group of scientists. For years, Earth's astronomers had been monitoring the skies, noticing strange and unusual movements far beyond their solar system. Their telescopes picked up signals and ships traveling across deep space, moving in ways that no known species could match. There was something out there, something big, and it was heading straight for Earth. Dr. Alan Thompson, one of the lead scientists at Earth's Space Observatory, was the first to notice the irregularities. His eyes were glued to the screen as the data came in, a strange sense of dread growing in the pit of his stomach. He had always been a believer in the vastness of space, in the idea that Earth was just one tiny part of an endless universe. But this was different. These ships were not ordinary. They were massive, and their movements were calculated, deliberate. It didn't take long for Dr. Thompson to reach a terrifying conclusion. The Galactic Empire was coming. His heart raced as he quickly informed the world's leaders. The news spread like wildfire. Panic swept across the globe as world governments scrambled to respond. The United Nations called an emergency meeting, and leaders from every corner of the Earth gathered to discuss the growing threat. For the first time in human history, the nations of Earth put aside their differences and came together to confront a common enemy. They knew they had no choice. If the Empire's fleet reached Earth, they would be obliterated in an instant. In secret, military forces began preparing for war. The world's best engineers and scientists were summoned to help create defenses. Earth's leaders made a bold decision: to develop a weapon that could protect their home from the impending invasion. It was a difficult task, one that would require the combined knowledge of Earth's greatest minds, but they had no other choice. They had to act quickly. If they didn't, the consequences would be catastrophic. While Earth's military and scientists worked tirelessly behind the scenes, a sense of unease began to grow among the people. News outlets reported on the approaching fleet, and the people of Earth were left in the dark about the true scale of the danger. Most still believed that the Empire would never come to Earth, that the small blue planet wasn't worth the Empire's time. But the reality was much darker. The Empire didn't conquer for resources. They conquered to expand their power, and Earth was now in their sights. As days turned into weeks, the Empire's fleet drew closer. The ships were vast, each one larger than anything Earth had ever seen. Their sleek, metallic exteriors shimmered like dark mirrors in the void of space. The sight of these ships approaching Earth filled the world with fear, but there was also a quiet sense of determination. Humanity had always survived against the odds, always found a way to adapt, to fight. This time, they would not go down without a struggle. Dr. Thompson and his team worked day and night to analyze the Empire's movements, sending their findings to military commanders and governments around the globe. The Empire was relentless, but Earth was not without its own strengths. The people of Earth had something that the Empire did not understand: unity. They had the power to come together, to put aside their differences and fight for their home. The scientists and military leaders knew that they would need every bit of that strength in the days to come. The countdown had begun. Earth had one chance to defend itself, and the clock was ticking. As the days passed, The people of Earth waited with bated breath. They could not know what the future would bring. But one thing was certain. They would not go quietly into the dark. The Empire had made a mistake, underestimating the will of humanity. And they would soon learn the true power of Earth. As Earth's defenses continued to take shape, an air of urgency settled over the world. People could feel it in their bones. The threat from the Galactic Empire was real. It wasn't just a matter of whether they could survive the attack, but whether they could survive as a species. For the first time in history, humanity was united under a single banner: the survival of Earth. At the United Nations headquarters, leaders from every nation gathered in a massive emergency summit. The room buzzed with tension as representatives from every corner of the globe exchanged nervous glances. For so long, Earth had been divided by politics, borders, and old conflicts. But in this moment, those divisions were forgotten. The Empire was coming, and humanity had no choice but to stand together. President Maria Green stood at the head of the table, her face a mask of determination. She had spent her career navigating the complex world of international politics, but this was different. This was not about politics anymore. This was about the survival of every man, woman, and child on Earth. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "We must act now, or we risk losing everything. Every country, every leader, every citizen must come together. We are all in this fight together." Across the room, other world leaders nodded. The situation was dire, but there was no turning back now. They had to do what humanity had always done best: adapt, innovate, and fight back. Earth's top scientists and military strategists had already begun work on a defense system capable of withstanding the Empire's technological might. But it would take more than technology to win this battle. It would take unity. In secret, across the globe, countries had begun pooling their resources. The world's best engineers and scientists worked tirelessly in underground bunkers and hidden laboratories, sharing their knowledge to create the most advanced weapons humanity had ever seen. The military, too, began training soldiers from every nation in a unified effort. It was all hands on deck. Every person, regardless of background or nationality, had a role to play. Meanwhile, the Empire's fleet continued to approach, its massive warships growing larger and more intimidating as they neared Earth's orbit. The people of Earth could see the ships now, their dark silhouettes against the stars, a constant reminder of the danger they faced. But with each passing day, humanity's resolve grew stronger. They knew they couldn't rely on luck to save them. They had to fight for their future. As the clock ticked down, Earth's military began to prepare for the worst. The newly developed energy defense system was tested repeatedly, each test more successful than the last. Scientists worked around the clock to ensure that their invention could neutralize the Empire's most powerful weapons. It was a long shot, but it was humanity's best hope. Back in the halls of government, President Green and her team made a bold decision. They would broadcast a message to the Empire, one that would send a clear and simple message. Earth was not going to kneel. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The message was short, just a few words, but they were words that carried the weight of an entire planet's defiance. "We are human. We will not kneel." It was a declaration, a warning. The Empire had never encountered a species like humanity. The people of Earth had been underestimated for too long, and this message was the first step in showing the Empire just how wrong they were. Back on Earth, ordinary people began to feel the effects of this newfound unity. Cities that had once been divided by political and economic struggles now worked together. Food and supplies were shared between nations, and refugees from the most at-risk areas were welcomed with open arms. The message from Earth's leaders had inspired a sense of purpose and togetherness that spread like wildfire. People who had once feared the Empire now felt a deep sense of pride. They were no longer alone in the fight for their home. They were a part of something much bigger. Dr. Alan Thompson, the scientist who had first discovered the Empire's fleet, continued to work alongside the world's brightest minds. With every passing day, their understanding of the Empire's technology grew, and with that knowledge came hope. Humanity's strength lay not in its size, but in its ability to learn, adapt, and overcome. The final preparations were made. The world watched as the fleet of the Galactic Empire drew closer, its shadows stretching across Earth's horizon. The Empire was confident in its victory. They believed that Earth would bow before their might. But they were wrong. Humanity was ready, and they were united. As the Empire's fleet reached the edges of Earth's atmosphere, humanity stood together, stronger than ever. The call for unity had been answered. And now, the time had come for Earth to fight back. As the days slipped by, Earth's preparation grew increasingly urgent. The Galactic Empire's fleet loomed ever closer, its dark shape now clearly visible in the night sky. Humanity had made its choice: unite, fight, and survive. But Earth knew that its strength alone might not be enough. With time running out, President Maria Green and her team made a decision that would shake the very core of the Empire's confidence. They would not wait passively to be crushed. They would send a message, a warning to the Galactic Empire itself. At the United Nations headquarters, President Green stood at the heart of the decision-making process. Her voice rang clear in the war room as the leaders of the world listened attentively. "We must send them a message," she said. "We are not like the planets they've conquered before. Earth is different. If they think we'll bow down quietly, they are gravely mistaken." The room fell silent. The heads of state from all corners of the world understood the gravity of the situation. A warning wasn't just about speaking words. It was a challenge to the Empire's entire way of thinking. The message would be broadcast across the stars. It would be direct, clear, and simple, something the Empire could not ignore. "We are human. We will not kneel." It was a declaration, a powerful statement of defiance. The world's military engineers and communication experts quickly began working on the details of the broadcast. Using Earth's most advanced communication satellites and space stations, the message would be transmitted directly to the Empire's lead flagship. It would be a signal that would travel at the speed of light, cutting through the dark vastness of space to reach the heart of the Empire's fleet. Meanwhile, as preparations for the broadcast were underway, Earth's scientists continued their research into the technology of the Empire's ships. Dr. Alan Thompson, along with his team, had been working tirelessly, analyzing every scrap of information they could gather. They had learned much, but it was clear that their technology was still far behind that of the Empire. But one thing had become increasingly clear to them: the Empire had underestimated Earth. They thought of humanity as a weak, primitive species, unworthy of their attention. The warning message was not just about survival. It was about showing the Empire that Earth would not simply be crushed under their boots. Dr. Thompson stood in front of the screen, the weight of the task heavy on his shoulders. "If we can't match their technology, we must at least show them that we are not afraid, that we are ready to fight." His words echoed in the minds of every person who worked on the project. The message wasn't just a warning. It was a challenge. It was humanity's way of saying, "You may have power, but we have something stronger: determination, unity, and the will to fight for our future." As the broadcast system was activated and the message prepared for transmission, people across Earth watched in awe. The global leaders stood by in anticipation, their hearts racing. The world's eyes were fixed on the monitors as the transmission was sent to the stars. For a moment, there was silence. The vastness of space seemed to hold its breath as the message from Earth traveled toward the Empire's fleet. As the signal passed through the cosmos, each person on Earth, whether they were in the bustling cities or the quiet countryside, felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a broadcast. This was humanity's voice, and it was being heard by a force far greater than anything Earth had ever known. The message reached the Galactic Empire's flagship. On board, the high-ranking officers of the Empire stood in a grand command room, their eyes fixed on the screen. They watched in silence as the words appeared in their own language. transmitted directly from Earth. "We are human. We will not kneel." For the first time, the Empire's commanders were taken aback. They had expected submission, fear, and desperation from Earth. Instead, they received defiance. It was a small message, but it carried the weight of a planet's resolve. The leader of the Empire's fleet, Commander Xarthok, a tall alien with cold, calculating eyes, scowled as he read the message. "Foolish," he muttered. "They believe they can challenge us." But the seed of doubt had been planted. For the first time, the Empire's leaders hesitated. They had dealt with countless civilizations, bending them to their will. But Earth was different. There was something in the tone of the message, something in the defiance of humanity's spirit, that made them pause. The warning had been sent. Earth had spoken, and now the Empire had to decide how to respond. The message wasn't just words. It was a symbol of humanity's strength. It wasn't just about what they could do with technology or weapons. It was about their heart, their will to fight for survival. The Galactic Empire, accustomed to crushing worlds without question, now found itself facing something it had never truly understood: the fierce, unyielding spirit of humanity. And that spirit was just beginning to awaken. The days after Earth's warning were filled with tense anticipation. The message had been sent, but it was still unclear whether the Galactic Empire would take it seriously or dismiss it as the words of a hopeless species. Earth could only wait and prepare for what was to come. President Maria Green and her team, along with the world's top scientists and military commanders, knew that they had one shot to defend their home. The Empire's fleet was too powerful to simply hope for victory. They needed to be ready for a fight. Behind the scenes, the world's most brilliant minds had been working non-stop on Earth's defense system. The new energy weapons, designed to disrupt the Empire's advanced technology, were now ready for testing. These weapons were humanity's best hope, and they were designed to target the Empire's enormous warships and disable them before they could attack. Dr. Alan Thompson, who had once only studied the stars, now found himself at the forefront of Earth's defense efforts. His team of scientists had worked day and night to develop a system that could stop the Empire's ships in their tracks. They knew that the Empire's technology was far superior to Earth's own, but they had one advantage: creativity. Earth's engineers and scientists were masters of improvisation, using limited resources to create something new and powerful. The first test of the energy weapon took place in a remote military testing facility deep in the mountains. The team watched closely as the massive energy beam was fired at a mock-up of an enemy ship. The weapon hummed to life, sending a pulse of energy across the field. The results were immediate and stunning. The mock ship, built to simulate the Empire's advanced vessels, flickered and then shut down completely. It was as if the ship had been turned off, its systems neutralized by the energy pulse. "We did it," Dr. Thompson whispered, a sense of disbelief in his voice. The team erupted in cheers, but there was no time to celebrate. This was just the beginning. The weapon had worked, but now they had to make sure it would work against the Empire's real ships. The warships were huge, far larger and more powerful than any mock-up, and their technology was unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. Still, the team had faith. They had designed the system to be flexible, capable of adapting to the Empire's technology, and that gave them hope. In the days that followed, the world's military forces worked together to prepare for battle. Troops from every nation trained alongside each other, learning how to operate Earth's new weapons and work as one united force. The message of unity that had spread across the globe was now embodied in the military. There were no more borders, no more divisions. Every soldier, every technician, and every scientist was part of the same mission: to protect Earth from the Empire. Meanwhile, high above Earth, the Galactic Empire's fleet continued its slow march toward the planet. Their ships moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine, their engines humming as they cut through space. But the Empire's commanders had underestimated one thing: Earth's resilience. Despite the fear and uncertainty, humanity had already proven that it would not go down without a fight. And now, as the Empire's fleet entered Earth's solar system, they were about to face a challenge they had never anticipated. Commander Sarthak, leader of the Empire's fleet, stared at the readings on his console. The human warning had not been ignored. Their message had reached the fleet, and it had stirred something in his mind. He had expected the humans to cower in fear, to beg for mercy. Instead, they had dared to challenge the Empire. It made him angry, but it also made him curious. He had seen many worlds fall before the Empire's might, but there was something about Earth that intrigued him. They were small, they were weak, and yet they had sent a message of defiance. "Prepare for the final approach," Sarthak ordered coldly. "We will show them the consequences of their foolishness." As the Empire's ships drew closer, Earth's defense systems were activated. Satellites in space aligned, and powerful energy beams began to glow. The newly constructed weapons, hidden in deep space bunkers, now stood ready to face the approaching threat. Earth's military waited in the silence of their command centers, ready for the moment when the enemy would come within range. Despite the preparations, fear still lingered in the hearts of many. How could Earth, with its limited resources, stand against an empire that had conquered countless worlds? It was a question that haunted many of Earth's leaders, but it was also the question that drove them to fight. Back in the control rooms, President Green paced back and forth. She knew the weapon would work, but she also knew that the real battle was about more than just technology. It was about willpower, about proving to the Empire that humanity would not be cowed. And that, she believed, was something the Empire could never defeat. With the Empire's ships now in sight, Earth stood on the brink of its greatest challenge. But one thing was clear. The Empire was about to learn something they had never understood about humanity. The small, seemingly insignificant planet they had targeted had one thing the Empire lacked: an unbreakable spirit. And that spirit would be the key to Earth's survival. The moment had arrived. Earth's defense systems were fully activated, and the world watched in anticipation as the massive ships of the Galactic Empire approached. In every city, in every corner of the globe, people held their breath, waiting for the first sign of battle. It was a moment of both fear and hope. Fear because the Empire was a force unlike any Earth had ever faced, and hope because humanity had come together in a way no one could have ever imagined. At the heart of Earth's military operations, President Maria Green stood before a large screen. The image of the Empire's ships, dark and intimidating against the backdrop of space, filled the screen. She was calm, but deep inside, her heart raced. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. Earth's very survival hung in the balance. Beside her, Dr. Alan Thompson, the scientist who had played a key role in the development of the defense system, glanced nervously at the readouts on his console. "The energy weapons are ready," he said, his voice steady, but filled with tension. "We've calibrated them for the Empire's ships. The moment they enter range, we'll fire." "Do it," President Green replied. Her voice was firm, but there was an edge of uncertainty in it. No one had ever faced a battle like this, and the unknowns were as terrifying as the enemy itself. The fleet of the Galactic Empire continued to move closer, its engines cutting through space like the shadow of doom. Commander Sarthak, leader of the Empire's invasion force, had given the order to prepare for the final assault on Earth. He had no intention of wasting time. The humans had made their challenge, and now they would pay the price. But even Sarthak could feel a twinge of doubt as he looked at Earth through the observation deck of his flagship. It was just a small blue planet, hardly worth the effort. And yet, something about it made him pause. He dismissed the thought. There was no need for hesitation. The Empire's might would crush Earth just as it had crushed countless other worlds. There was no need to concern himself with the insignificant details. As the Empire's ships entered Earth's atmosphere, the first wave of energy pulses was launched. The sky above Earth erupted with brilliant flashes of light as the energy beams shot into space, targeting the massive warships of the Empire. The weapons were powerful, designed to disrupt the advanced technology of the enemy ships. The world watched in awe as the beams streaked toward their targets. And then, the unthinkable happened. The energy beams struck their targets, and the Empire's ships, enormous, terrifying vessels, flickered and stuttered. For a brief moment, they seemed to freeze in place, their engines sputtering and their systems shutting down. The attacks had worked. The weapons developed by Earth's scientists had successfully disabled the first wave of the Empire's fleet. Direct hit, Dr. Thompson shouted, his voice full of disbelief. It's working. The room erupted with cheers, but there was no time to celebrate. The Empire's fleet was massive, and this was only the beginning. Commander Xarthok, standing on his flagship, was not one to take defeat lightly. He had expected Earth's weapons to be a threat, but this was a surprise. His ships were more advanced, and yet they had been temporarily neutralized. Activate the backup systems, Xarthok ordered. We will not let a handful of humans stop us. In the blink of an eye, the Empire's ships were back online, their weapons charging and ready to retaliate. The humans had caused a temporary delay, but they had not won. The battle was far from over. Here they come, a soldier shouted as the screens filled with incoming signals. The Empire's ships were preparing to launch a counterattack, and Earth's defense systems were already stretched thin. The energy weapons had been effective, but they weren't enough to bring down the entire fleet. The real fight was just beginning. Across the globe, military forces scrambled to adjust their strategies. The first wave of Earth's energy weapons had been a success, but the Empire was far from defeated. In every country, soldiers took their positions, preparing for the second wave. Earth's fighters, once separated by borders and differences, were now united in one common cause: survival. As the Empire's ships charged forward, Earth's military launched its own counteroffensive. Fighter jets streaked into the sky, firing missiles and laser weapons at the incoming ships. The atmosphere above Earth became a chaotic battlefield, filled with flashing lights and explosions. It was a fight unlike any other, a fight between Earth's determination and the Empire's overwhelming power. On the ground, people watched in awe as the battle raged above them. For a moment, it felt as though the very sky had become a battleground, and the fate of humanity rested on the shoulders of those above. But even as the battle raged, Earth's spirit remained unbroken. The humans had taken their first strike, and now they would fight with everything they had. Commander Xarthok watched the chaos unfold on his screen. His fleet had been delayed, but he was confident they would overcome Earth's resistance. The Empire's might was unstoppable. Yet, as he watched the flashes of energy and the fighters scrambling to defend their world, he couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was more than just another conquered planet. Earth had made its move. The first strike had been successful, but the war was far from over. The battle above Earth raged on. The skies were filled with flashes of light as fighter jets streaked through the atmosphere, clashing with the enormous ships of the Galactic Empire. Despite the Empire's superior technology and overwhelming numbers, Earth's military stood firm. They had never fought an enemy like this before, but they had one thing the Empire could never understand: unity. Every soldier, every pilot, and every scientist was working together to protect their planet. Commander Xarthok watched with growing frustration as the human fighters continued to strike at his fleet. His ships were large, powerful, and heavily armed, yet Earth's tactics were throwing them off. The humans were unpredictable, their fighters darting in and out of the Empire's defenses with incredible agility. He had expected to crush them easily, but now he found himself in the midst of a fierce battle. Status report, Xarthok barked, his eyes narrowing in irritation. Sir, the energy weapons from Earth have disabled several of our warships. They've proven more effective than we anticipated, one of his officers replied. We are making adjustments, but they are causing significant damage. Xarthok clenched his fists. Activate the secondary fleet. Bring in the reinforcements. He would not let a handful of humans stand in his way. He would destroy Earth and show the galaxy that the Empire's power was absolute. Back on Earth, President Maria Green stood in the heart of the command center, watching the battle unfold on the large screens before her. Her face was set in determination, but inside, she felt the weight of the situation. The first strike had been successful, but now the Empire was retaliating. Earth's defenses were holding. But for how long? The Empire's ships were stronger, and they had more resources. We need to hold them off, President Green said to the officers around her. We've shown them that we can fight back, but we need to buy more time. What's the status on the backup systems? The secondary defense systems are in place, Dr. Alan Thompson replied. We've deployed additional energy pulse generators, but they're only designed for short-term use. If the Empire continues its assault, they could overwhelm us. But we can't give up, Maria said firmly. We need to show them that we won't surrender. Earth's people are stronger than they think. We will fight until the end. Meanwhile, across the globe, Earth's military forces continued their relentless defense. Ground troops mobilized, prepared to defend key cities, while the Air Force worked tirelessly to intercept the Empire's ships. Soldiers and civilians alike understood that this wasn't just a battle for Earth. It was a battle for the future of humanity. The message that Earth had sent to the Empire, "We are human. We will not kneel," was not just a statement. It was a promise. Humanity would not be crushed without a fight. As the battle above Earth continued, Sarthak's reinforcements arrived. A new wave of ships, even larger and more formidable than the first, emerged from the depths of space. The sight of the reinforcements was enough to send a shiver down the spine of anyone watching from Earth. The Empire's fleet had grown, and with it, the pressure on Earth's defenses increased. Target Earth's energy weapons, Sarthak commanded. Destroy their ability to fight back. The Empire's ships opened fire, launching a barrage of missiles and energy beams at Earth's defense systems. The sky above Earth darkened as the first waves of fire rained down. Explosions rocked the atmosphere, and the ground trembled beneath the feet of those below. The battle was reaching its peak. Back in the command center, President Green watched as the Empire's assault intensified. Brace for impact, she ordered. Activate the emergency shields. Dr. Thompson worked furiously at his console, trying to coordinate Earth's defense systems. We're doing everything we can, but the shields won't hold for long, he shouted. The energy weapons were weakening, and Earth's fighters were struggling to keep up with the Empire's reinforcements. Despite the growing threat, President Green remained calm. We can't back down now, she said. We've shown them we can fight. We've shown them we won't be intimidated. Keep pushing. The battle raged on for hours, and it seemed as though Earth's defenses were being pushed to the brink. The Empire's ships continued to advance, their firepower overwhelming. But Earth was not giving up. Every soldier, every pilot, and every person on Earth knew what was at stake. Their fight wasn't just for survival, it was for their way of life, their freedom, and the future of humanity. Then, something unexpected happened. As the Empire's ships prepared to launch another devastating strike, a new signal appeared on Earth's radar. It was a message, one that came from deep within the heart of the Empire's fleet. It wasn't a standard communication, it was something far more personal. The message read, "We have underestimated you, humans. You fight with a strength we did not expect." The message wasn't a surrender, but it was a recognition. The Empire had seen what humanity was capable of, and for the first time, Commander Sarthak and his officers began to question their assumptions about Earth. President Green read the message, her heart pounding. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The Empire was finally starting to recognize humanity's strength, and that, she knew, was only the beginning. The battle was far from over, but Earth had sent a clear message. Humanity would never kneel. The battle had reached its breaking point. Earth's defenses were stretched thin, and the Empire's fleet loomed ever closer. The sky above was alive with explosions, the atmosphere shaking with the force of each impact. It seemed as though Earth was on the edge of defeat, but one thing was clear to everyone fighting below. Humanity would not give up. They had shown the Empire that they were not a species to be underestimated, and they would continue to fight until their last breath. In the command center, President Maria Green watched the screens, her eyes scanning the battlefield. Earth's energy weapons had been fired at full power, and though they had dealt significant damage to the Empire's fleet, the enemy's reinforcements had proven overwhelming. The situation was dire, but President Green knew she couldn't let fear control her. Now was the time to show the galaxy what Earth was made of. "We've held them off longer than they expected," Maria said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "But we need something more, something unexpected. We can't win this with force alone." Dr. Alan Thompson, who had worked tirelessly alongside Earth's military to develop the energy weapons, turned to face her. "We have one last option, but it's risky. We've been working on a new technology, a weapon that could tip the balance. But it's not fully tested, and we can't afford mistakes." Maria considered his words carefully. "We don't have time for mistakes. If we don't try, we'll lose everything. Do it." Dr. Thompson nodded. He understood the stakes. The weapon was designed to send a massive shockwave through the Empire's fleet, temporarily disabling their advanced technology. It was humanity's last hope, but it was untested in real combat. If it failed, Earth would be defenseless. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Xarthak had watched Earth's resistance with a growing sense of respect. Despite the overwhelming power of the Empire's fleet, the humans had managed to slow their advance. He had never expected this much fight from a species so small, so fragile. But he knew he could not show weakness. The Empire's goal was clear. Earth would fall, and Xarthak would see to it personally. "Prepare for the final strike." Xarthak ordered his fleet. "No more delays. We end this today." As Xarthak's fleet prepared to launch its final attack, Earth's military was working in secret. Dr. Thompson's team had activated the new weapon. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, a device capable of disrupting the Empire's advanced technology on a massive scale. It had the potential to turn the tide, but it had never been tested in battle. "Activate the shockwave generator," Dr. Thompson instructed. "Prepare for a full-scale energy pulse." The weapon hummed to life, its power growing with each passing second. In the command center, every person held their breath. The fate of Earth rested on this moment. Would the weapon work? Would it be enough to stop the Empire? With a roar, the weapon fired. A massive shockwave rippled through space, a pulse of energy that reached out to touch every ship in the Empire's fleet. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still as the pulse expanded, moving like a wave across the galaxy. The Empire's ships reacted instantly. Systems began to flicker, their weapons powering down. Engines sputtered and failed. It was as if a massive hand had reached out and turned off the lights. The Empire's technology, which had once seemed invincible, now lay in disarray. Commander Xarthak gripped his console tightly as his flagship's systems went dark. "What is happening?" he shouted. His officers scrambled to react, but it was too late. The shockwave had hit, and the Empire's fleet was crippled. This is impossible," Xarthak muttered in disbelief. He had never imagined that the humans could possess such power. Earth's new weapon had done what their conventional forces could not. It had disrupted the very core of the Empire's might. Down on Earth, the news of the Empire's sudden malfunction spread like wildfire. Military commanders rushed to assess the damage to the Empire's fleet. Earth's energy weapons, combined with the new shockwave generator, had turned the tide of the battle. President Green stood, watching the unfolding victory. She felt a surge of hope. Earth had done it. They had faced the impossible and come out on top. The Empire, for all its power and arrogance, had been forced to reckon with humanity's strength. The message had been sent loud and clear. Earth would not fall without a fight. In the skies above, The remnants of the Empire's fleet began to retreat. Earth's forces were already mobilizing for a final strike, ready to finish what had begun. The Empire had underestimated humanity, but now they would learn just how wrong they were. "We've done it," Maria said, a smile crossing her face for the first time in days. "Earth is safe." But even as the battle began to wind down, Maria knew that the victory wasn't just about the weapons or the tactics. It was about the spirit of humanity, the unbreakable will to protect their home, their families, and their future. The Empire had underestimated Earth, but they had learned one important lesson. Humanity would never give up, no matter the odds. And with that, Earth's fight for survival was over. The Empire had been forced to retreat, and Earth's place in the galaxy was secured, not because of their technology, but because of their determination to protect their world. Humanity had won.